Hey y'all, I'm DR.Bibliophile and I'm here to explain today why I would consider myself an entry-level bibliophile. So first off, we need to establish what a bibliophile actually is. Well, according to Webster's dictionary, a bibliophile is a lover of books, especially for qualities of format, or a book collector. Now, I would consider myself, like I said, an entry-level bibliophile compared to a full-fledged bibliophile because I don't think I fit the stereotypical image of what that is. For example, if I say the word bibliophile, what most likely comes to mind is an old man or woman that sequesters himself away from society and lives solely for their books and just waits for that next rush of either a rare book or a specialty book haul. Now, although that is just fine, I have nothing against bibliophiles like that, I admire them greatly, I am not like that. I do not sequester myself from society, and while I still get an incredible rush from finding a rare book or an incredible book haul, that once again is not all I live for. I do collect several books for the sole intention of keeping them on my shelf and never reading them, but I don't collect all my books like that in much the way that some bibliophiles do. However, I do have many traits that do carry over into what a bibliophile is, such as I do buy books with the sole intention of keeping them on my shelf and never ever reading them. Now, I know what many of you are thinking, why buy a book if you're not going to read it? Well, let me explain what I do for that situation real quick so I can get on to the other points. If I buy a book that I really like the way it looks, but I'm even more curious as to the contents of it, I will buy what I call a beater book. For example, right here I have a leather-bound, gold-lettered, fully illustrated copy of Mossflower with a silk bookmark by Brian Jacques. This is a very, very nice book. I've never seen another one like it, and I want to keep it in as pristine condition as possible, so I'm not even going to break the spine. However, I love Brian Jacques and I want to read his work, so instead, I buy a copy like this. Just a cheap mass-market paperback that I don't really care if it gets, that I don't really care if it gets tattered, as you can see, and I can read this book and enjoy what it has to say while still having this. Does that make sense? Now, with that being said, I do have quite a few copies of books that I have purchased with the sole intention of never looking at. This is a perfect example of that. This is Empires of the Ancient Near East, published by Folio Society, a 4-volume, cloth-bound, gold-lettered set, and I just consider them absolutely beautiful. It's the Hittites, the Babylonians, the Egyptians, and the Persians. I don't know if you guys can see that, but if you can tell this is in its original dust jacket and it still has the plastic wrap on it. And I never, ever, ever intend on opening this just because I want to keep it in its great condition and just be able to enjoy it for years to come. Another example of a book that I purchased that I don't intend on using is this behemoth of a book. It is Sion's Newman and Barrett's Spanish Pronouncing Dictionary by Velázquez. This thing is huge. I mean, honestly, if I ever really need a Spanish to English dictionary, I'll go and buy one for $5 and not have to lug this around. But that being said, I think this is beautiful. It's from the 1800s, and I collect old books especially, and it's fantastic. Everything's here, and I really like the ribbing on the spine, and I like the way it looks on my shelf. I just consider it more of a display piece than a utility piece, or what's inside it. Another trait I have that is very similar to other bibliophiles is I collect multiple copies of the exact same book. Let me show you what I mean. I don't know how well you guys can see. Let me try that. But right here, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 copies of The Hobbit. Now, if you watch my previous video as to my favorite book of all time, you know it is The Hobbit. So to me, it just makes sense to collect as many copies as I can. I collect them for the cover art, but many bibliophiles will collect for individual editions, like first they want the full string of editions. Some will collect books just for the first editions. Others will do it like I do for the artwork. But regardless of how they collect them, a lot of bibliophiles, like me, will have multiple copies. And finally, the last thing I have in common, I believe, with many bibliophiles is I have a complete and utter passion for books. I love them. I'll buy book-related things, book-related objects. I have a book box over there that looks like a fancy leather-bound book when in fact it is a container. I also will buy books like this, a primer of book collecting. So people like me are just completely obsessed and will find some kind of an outlet, be it collecting or clubs or me doing this, joining BookTube and telling my passion of books for you guys. So it's just, we're so consumed with it, we want to share it with everybody. So that's my brief video as to why I feel I'm an entry-level bibliophile as opposed to a full-fledged bibliophile. Hope you guys like what you saw. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And remember, reading is the special key to take you where you want to be. Thanks, and God bless. Bye.